Welcome to the Dungeon Coach Plays, my second channel, where we break down my homebrew game sessions in the world of Corin called Rift of Nations. We're in session 12 now, and still having some fun breaking down through the travel they just finished up. They were trying to find their secrets contact with some cryptic clues as to how to find them. I really wanted to be a task to find this individual, so it really feels mysterious and hypes up the mysteriousness of this NPC, because it is a very important NPC. The players don't even know how important this NPC is. It's a whole nother faction, technically, of the world that I haven't even told you guys about yet. So here we go. I'm going to start off as I always do, as I'm going to say what I thought was going to happen, what I prepped for, and then what actually happened. And there's some good news in that. So here is the session 12 notes. This is my Notion stuff. My patrons get access to my Notion. I just changed some of the Patreon goals or the rewards that I have, and you get this early access right away if you want to dive in through the DM binder. I got a whole bunch of stuff, not just my session notes, all in this thing, and stuff that I use to prep for my games. So if you're interested in that, check it out below. Helps me support what I do here, even on this second channel. So session 12, I wanted to have some pregame notes here that I always say before, like little housekeeping stuff. I thought what was going to happen was they found the big tree, and they're going to go up to this big tree that they told notes of. And I had this note say, atop the highest tree where the light crosses the water, you will find the stick. So they found this big, I'm not getting into what I thought was going to happen. I prepped all the clues leading up to finding this contact. The time based on the last 2 sessions of travel to get to this thing with a bunch of different curveballs along the way, based on how the rolls went and how the whole encounters went along the way, they were a little bit behind the curveball. Not a full day's worth behind, but they were just a little bit behind. So I had 3 different scenarios and planned out, not fully flushed out, just prepped the concept of. If they were ahead, everything's great. They find the person, it's all good, no worries. And if they were the same time, they're going to have a group that's like a group of the Chagra, the Grasslands Nation. A group of Chagra scouts were going to be looking for them about the same time, which is odd and interesting. Why are they here at the exact same time? There's possibly some clues there. And if they were a day late, they were going to already have found the person. There's going to be, that person's going to be gone, and then they lose their contact, which would have been real bad. But anyway, I planned out that they were going to go to the thing, find the clues, find their contact. There'd be the people looking for them that they'd skirt around. I mean, hypothetically, I'm guessing at all this. We have no idea what our players are going to do. They're crazy, right? They're going to skirt around here, but we're back to the notes now. They're going to find the hole. Here's the contact. There he is. His name's Knackle, and he has this whole situation going on with all of this stuff here. He's got different knowledge of different stuff from the past and the present and the future, all this stuff. And then they're going to plan out how they're going to break into the Leviathan outpost, which is the Chagra Nation, the Grasslands Nation outpost that's out in front of these ruins that are kind of like setting up to get ready to attack the Wanderers who are holding down the ruins, this like really ancient ruins here, which is going to be exciting when they finally get to that. And I had all the Chagra base ready to go. I had my map ready to check out my map. I had my map ready to go. And then there we go. I think that's upside down, whatever. I have my everything ready to go for that. Here's all the notes of where each things were in each of the 11 different places. And inside here, I had different stuff about if they get captured, all this stuff happens. You see what I'm saying? I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go, baby. I thought they were going to start their way, and I was going to end the session at some sort of like big cliffhanger, like you're in the thing, and then, and that's where we're going to stop. That's what I thought was going to happen. But then, here's what actually happened. So they're traveling there. They go up the tree. They find where the light crosses the deal and all that stuff. And then they go down. They get to cross the river. And they said, like, they asked a question that I never had thought of before. They're like, well, so it's where the light crosses the river, but what side of the river is this stick on? They're trying to find a stick that's leaning up against a tree. That was the only sneaky clue that they were given, right? So they had to go look for this thing. So they all rolled, they made their little checks and stuff, and they got a 15 on the survival check to look for this thing. And okay, cool. So it takes you a little bit of time. It's not on this side of the river. It's on the other side of the river. And that's the most simple thing I thought. I never thought of which side of the river is this the stick on, right? So I was like, oh, it's on the other side of the river. That would make sense. And okay, so sure, they didn't find it here, so it's on the other side of the river. Okay, cool. And then I never realized how difficult crossing a river would be for this group, because they have a pack mule carrying a wagon. And I was like, oh man, okay, here we go. So they got in the water and they're asking this, they're exploring their environment, and I know the environment. I did not have this prepped out. I knew the area. I knew what kind of creatures were in the water. I just knew the basics of the surroundings, and I can infer everything from there. Feels real good, feels real natural. So they jumped in the water. One of the players jumped in the water and got attacked by this small lizard, this like skink type salamander lizard, rounded off nose, 6 legs. Weird. Bites into his leg, tries to get it off, and he can't. Like he tries to like pull it off his leg, and he can't. And then he had to like stab it as it's attached to his leg, as it's like alligator death rolling around. These are foreshadowing mechanics to the monster that they could potentially fight of this dire salamander. Check that out. Boom. Camera. Focus. There it is. Right? Super scary dire salamander situation. I have a homebrew stat block for it. Homebrew mechanics for it. Ooh, baby. It's going to be awesome. And yeah, it was... a foreshadowing into that mechanic of the fight. These little creatures that rattle on and thrash around whenever. So I had a little bit of foreshadowing there for that. These little babies of this creature were attacking these players. So he got out of the water. They went down further to find a spot where there was a shadow wall. And this is now, I'm improvising as a dungeon master. I don't know the exact layout of this, but I was like, all right, it's bigger towards where the water ends in this big opening, where I know that there's this huge pool of water where the base is as you see, big base situation, big pool of water on the side. So I knew that it gets bigger there, so it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Sure, it gets smaller off to the side. So they travel on, they find like a 20-foot section, they're going across it, and I had a bunch of these little lizards attack them again, just to spice it up and foreshadow it. It turns out that the lizards, these little salamanders, baby salamander things, were like attacking the mule's legs because they love this mule. They love Samson. They've named the mule Samson. I have a little mini for it. And they love this mule, and he's never been put in danger. They keep putting him into these combats. He keeps being around these combats, but he's never been in danger. So all these things are attacking its legs. And poor Samson, this poor mule, he can't defend himself. He's like sludging through water. One of the players are standing on his back that's afraid of water, and his front legs go down, and now he's like drowning in the water. And they had to really panic to try and save their, I said he's well bloodied. They're like, oh my gosh, like, wait a sec. So it was a cool little thing where they're traveling across water, carrying things, floating things across, and they had these like little like piranhas almost of lizards attack them in the water, right? And then they got through and they got out. Ooh, okay. And everything was fine. Everything was okay. They were fine. They had all the different roles that we did on the fly, no initiative or no combat. And then that took a little bit. And there was a cool little moment that I really wanted to take a moment, this spur of the moment inspiration of, I want to have Samson, their pet mule basically, that they all love, be threatened in some way, right? And they did a great job of coming to its rescue and all that kind of stuff. So they then found this stick and it pointed them in the right direction. They start going this way. And then there's a patrol of 3 people coming across the river. And they're like, oh, interesting. One of the players like, okay, they start to sneak away, like hide. And then one of the players like, well, maybe that's our contact. Maybe this is who we're looking for. And they thought that could be their contact. And I mean, shoot, maybe that could have been their contact if they were crossing paths, and that would be real awkward if they had to cross paths and then they never found their contact. So he goes, hey, how's it? Hey, you over there, we're over here. And he just calls out to him. Later on, this player would go to say how maybe they shouldn't have done that. And this is all, by the way, still off the record. If you look at my DM prep notes, we're still way up here. We started the session and they did the big tree. They met up at the dust. They searched for the stick. They found the stick, and they haven't even found this hole yet. This is the prep I had so far. Literally what's on the screen right now. That's all that it needed. And this was still all going and going and going. And they're like, now have this like confrontation with these people. Who are these people? I don't know. These are a scout of patrols from the Chagra nation. All I had, do I have it here? If this is all the papers that I had on the top of this? Yes, it's right here. All I had for them was this piece of paper that says Chagra forces. And it has a bunch of different things about what Chagra forces do. They have a booming blade mechanic, and they have sound-based magic that can affect whenever they move from locations. And once they have sound-triggered things, they can deal damage to people that have this like sound, like when booming blade, whenever you hit somebody, there's like energy around them. And if they move, it damages. I wanted to dial that to 10. Basically, booming blade times 10. Be creative, go. That's all really the notes I have for these things written down. And I have other things like screen cone and silence stuff and everything. But all I did was basically, as a dungeon master, I know that this nation of Chagra are known for their sound magic. So I thought of, and I had a little brainstorm list of different sound magic things. And the only note that I gave myself here, just in case this fight happened, because I didn't know if it was going to happen. In fact, I thought it wasn't going to happen because you would just sneak away off to the side. That's what I thought. But they engaged with these people. So the only note I had as a dungeon master to go off of is Booming Blade. Times 10. Go for it. So these 3 people, and so I immediately like, all right, there's 3 of them. 1 main one and 2 small ones. These 2 are archers, and this guy has a sword. And then they start spreading out and surrounding the group. Why are they surrounding the group? I don't know. I was wanting to surround them. Right. So maybe there's some sort of sound thing where if they have a sound and you get pincer between sounds, you can get stunned. I was like, okay, cool. That's going to be a mechanic. If you sound pincer somebody from opposite sides, it can stun them because they get bombarded from both sides. Right. Okay, cool. And so I'm coming up with these mechanics on the fly in this way. And this is me testing myself as a dungeon master. This is the things I've said before on the channel of trying to become a better dungeon master. And I don't do all fights like this. Let me have that disclaimer out there. I have this, here we go. Dire Salamander. Here's the Dire Salamander stat block, all completely locked in, all straight up standard. Like, this is a straight up monster stat block. I'm going to put this into the monster playbook I have for Alcanar's Almanac. It's a freaking sweet salamander. It's awesome. But that's a full flushed out fight. This is notes on maybe a fight, because I don't have the time to spend 20 minutes or so coming up with this potential maybe combat that doesn't happen. Sometimes I do that and the combats don't happen, and then you can recycle them and put them in other places, take the mechanics, reuse them later, whatever. But this is just I want to show this type of thing where the fight started and something really interesting happened. The barbarian snuck away from the group and got behind one of the people and was about to start to jump on him. And then the party was in this little standoff, and they're like, hey, you know what? Maybe we can use this to our advantage. Maybe they can take us in and we can go over towards the thing and then get a little bit and we can get a jump on these people. But what they didn't know is the nation of Chagra is sound-based magic. And this person was speaking to them from 100+ feet away, and it sounded like they were right next to you. And they were talking in a very normal voice. And y'all are yelling over to them, and he's talking in a very normal, and it sounds like he's right in front of you. It's not telepathic in your head. It just sounds like he's right in front of you. And he's way over there. So I gave them clues with all of that stuff. However, y'all would think that some other mechanics of that would go. But then they turn to each other and start whispering. They're like, we're going to whisper this to each other. All right, here's what we can act like we're going along with them, and then jump them whenever we can. When we get a little closer, maybe get closer to the base. And so they're plotting against these people. Little do they know that this person can hear them. He can project sound to them, and he can hear the sound from them. That you can't whisper against these people. So maybe that's a mechanic they now learn about through this little encounter. Cool. So these people hear it. They completely hear what these people are saying and whispering about backstabbing them. So he tells his 2 archers to keep surrounding. And then this is now part of the Dungeon Master where I wanted to do a surprise round on my players, because it's what would make sense. They are very much talking, and then they fire the first shot, and then the initiative's gone. But I don't want it to feel bad like they never had a chance. So I wanted to play out some more things, and let's see what's going on with this whole barbarian sneaking away. So I was like, all right, so what are you doing, Q the barbarian? Run around. He's running around. They didn't see him. He rolled a stealth check, didn't see him. He comes up behind this person, and I was like, you see them draw their bow, and you hear her say, I'm firing at the blonde one with the sword. I'm firing at the blonde woman with the sword. And he's like, I jump her. I was like, all right, hold up, everybody. And also at the same time, the artificer said, she said, how can you talk to us from so far over there? While you're so far away over there. And I was like, we're going to get to that in just a second, because I want to spring these combats so it doesn't just feel like, okay, I'm rolling damage and you all take damage. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. I got to jump on you. I want it to, it just feels bad to me. Maybe I'm too nice as a dungeon master. I don't know. But I had the barbarian situation happen. All right, we're going to reconcile this real quick. I need you to, versus this person, I need you to roll for initiative against this person to see if you can jump on them before they fire off their shot that they said that they're firing. So they roll for initiative. He rolled an 8. She rolled a 9. So just beat him. And she got the shot off. So I was like, here's what happens. And then she says, how can you hear us from so far away? And you hear back, it's the same way that I can hear everything you're saying. And then you hear him yell fire, and then all of them fire at you. everybody roll initiative. And while that happens, and so I had to get a impromptu battle mat out that I had to draw, like, draw the little thing on, because I have battle mats drawn out beforehand for all the places where I think they might fight. This was not one of those places. So now the fight breaks out. They get the three of them all got their shots off. Two of their shots are booming blade arrows, where they shot to two people, and there's this pulsating sound around two of them, and they get hit for damage and they take damage, and there's this like this like vibrating energy around them as these arrows hit the ground. They don't shoot them, they hit the ground and then like charge the ground underneath them as these metal on the end of the arrows like compress, and there's this like like the sound that they're hearing, because I want to visually describe what this magic looks like instead of just like booming blade's always been a weird spell like that. So they have this damage around them, but they don't really know. And some of the players that have, veteran players, they knew booming blade type-esque mechanics were going on here, but they didn't game it too much or anything. One of them just bolted out of it. But then I'm like, okay, this guy gets to go, but he has a sword, and I had a mini for his sword, and I was like, okay, he can make attacks with sound on anything that has booming blade on it. I just made that up on the fly. I thought that was a cool thing. So this guy, he doesn't even take 2 steps forward. He gets his blade out, he hits the base of the hilt of it, and you hear this like, it's like high-pitched ringing, and he swings out at you, and he swings out at you, and both of you take thunder damage, and it has to make Constitution saving throws, because that makes the most sense from the sound of the thing. Okay, cool. And then you take thunder damage, boom, and I roll the dice for the thunder damage, and they're taking thunder damage, cool. And that was his made-up homebrew mechanic on the fly of he can make attacks on anyone that has this thunder damage on them. So now the archers are going to start shooting everybody with this, and he's going to be dealing damage to everyone that has this sound pulsing on it. So you got to think about, do I move and take the damage and get it off of me, or do I stay in the same spot? So they have to start thinking of some stuff, and the sound magic of like this booming blade times 10. That's the only note that I had for it, and it was cool. So then they proceeded, not to give a full play-by-play of the fight, they proceeded to do some really cool stuff and go for it. So that after the surprise round, the barbarian jumped on the person that he's attacking, did his wild magic surge roll, and hilariously, the wild magic surge, I have a homebrew wild magic barbarian. Maybe I've made a video at this point about it. I don't know. These are released at weird times. But he rolled an 18, which matches up on the table to a healing surge of type of energy. He gets the ability to heal. In this weird, crazy randomness of wild magic, he can heal. And I don't describe it as you can heal. I say this light green magic starts to glow from underneath your metal body. He's a warforged. And you feel this green glowing magic of life inside of you. That's the only clue I gave him, which you could maybe infer healing from that. So fast forward to the barbarian, he's making attacks across all the different rounds, and then pins her up against the tree, and then pushes her up against the tree, and he's like, I want to unleash this magic into her. So she's like on death's door, super bloodied, super messed up, mouth is bleeding, got a bruised eye from all the fighting that's been going on. And then he releases the energy. I was like, all right, I want you to roll a d8. And he rolled a 7. I was like, she heals for 7 points. As you see the blood kind of clear off and the eye get less red and swollen and kind of goes back to normal. He's like, oh no. And he's like, I joke, like he wasn't expecting that, and it was a hilarious moment at the table that he just healed someone in the middle of his perfect wild magic moment. I love it. So that's why I love this different wild magic barbarian that I have. I will have a video for it at some point. But anyway, the artificers, she's slinging her blade out, attacking the different people, using her hunter's mark, dealing some really solid range damage from away. And the he's not a druid, he's a warlock that's structured like a wizard, but he has a druid spell list. Watch the character description video if you know what I'm talking about. Darius swirls up some wind, and I have a different magic system in this game. I haven't made a video on this system yet, but what Darius can do is manipulate wind. And if he can come up with some cool ways to manipulate wind, we see it happen. I have a whole magic system, how it works. So this really cool thing that he did that I could do I'll have to make a whole video on at some point. He's thinking outside the box, like, for sure. He surges up wind. Ivar, the fighter, is way too far away from his target to be able to get to him in one round. Darius wanted to spend his turn to swirl up wind behind Ivar and push him with wind and accelerate his speed faster, and like wind sling him into to get him there. So I was like, all right, and we went through the whole thing, and it was he rolled higher than 20. It was great, and he gets Ivar there all the way up to him, and Ivor gets his attack off in this like anime style wind rush combo move. Super epic. Oh my god, I loved it. So Ivor gets there, slashes the guy, uses the action surge, slashes him again, messes him up. The other person gets a vine, comes up and attacks them, and they're like, who are these people? Like anime rushing wind, robot person and vines attacking them. They had no idea what they were getting into. It was a really cool chance to have a fight that showed some things. I want every one of my fights to have a purpose. It showed mechanics of Chagra. It showed the sound-based magic of Chagra. They got to fight some soldiers to get some outfits, get some badges of identity from them, get some magic items from Chagra to kind of put them look like Chagra army forces in some way. Gave them insight into lots of different things there. Possibly interrogate them, which they didn't end up doing because they finished them all off, killed them, and it was great, fun little tactical thing of them figuring out how the sound stuff works. They now have some sound arrows and a sound blade of themselves, or for themselves, and it was a really cool fight. I did not expect that fight to go on, and again, all I had was booming blade, and they fought this scout group that I thought they were going to sneak past, and they easily could have sneaked past them. So now we're back to this, and they find the hole. They talk to Knuckles Nook. In general, for my locations, I have 3 things. I try and give 3 bullet points for each of the big locations they get to. And it was they really saw this location. They loved that they interacted with it. I try and have different things they can interact with when I'm describing these things. I could do a whole little setup on that. I gave them a little picture, show them this person all covered up, and they really wanted to see who this person is. He's a mole person, porcine. It's a race of mole people, basically. And there's my notes for him and all that stuff. I get this description. This is what he knows. And it was about Leviathan Outpost. And that was it. They were able to get to the location. They found the person. They talked with them, had a bunch of information that they learned. They had even more information that they could have dove into. Knuckle is, just to give some this is the first time I'm saying this to you guys before, but there are currently, in the current timeline, 10 nations, or there used to be. There are 10 nations, and all of these have fallen, and we are down to 4 nations left, right? 6 of the nations have fallen. We're down to 4 of the current timeline's nations. But what the players haven't figured out yet at all is this has happened before. There are 10 current nations, and there are also 10 what I'm calling ancient nations, right? So there were 10 nations before all of this stuff went down, and these 10 nations eventually all fell. And then time passed on, civilizations rise back again, and the cycle repeated itself. And now there's these 10 nations, and now we're here in this timeline. So Knuckle is a mole person race from that ancient civilization of time ago. Each also of the world building in my world, in the 10 current nations, there are 10 races in the world. There are only 10 races that are widely spread across the known world of Corrin. But there's also ancient races, which are way more rare, way more unique. They've only seen 2 different ones, but they haven't really put it together that these races, and I make it a big deal when they see there's a Furbolg. Furbolg are an ancient race. This mole person is an ancient race. Kenku are an ancient race. They've seen one Kenku, they've seen one Furbolg, and they've seen one mole person. But there's this whole vibe of lycanthropy that I'm trying to get them off the scent of the trail. And lycanthropy is this really big deal in this current timeline. But these people are like bestial type races that are actual races. They're not lycans at all. So they're kind of off the scent of it a little bit. So it's working perfect for me as far as a dungeon master and where I want them to be is knowledge wise. So this is an ancient race from the past that is working with Broadstone. And I don't know if you remember in some of the past videos, for those of you who keep up with this up to date, and I can't wait to see the comments of who's all the way through and who's up to date with the campaign, so I can like talk about my homebrew campaign with you guys. But I don't even know what I was saying with that. Shoot. Anyway, where they're going up to these, Broadstone, there it is. See, this is also the stuff you get with these things. You get, okay, so Broadstone, I offhandedly said like, oh yeah, because I'm a human, and then they really don't think Broadstone's a human. And I was gonna lock in that Broadstone is a human, and they just let it be a red herring. But I was like, no, I'm gonna dive into this thing. Broadstone is now not a human. He is a Furbolg. Broadstone is a furbolg. He can shapeshift and disguise self and make himself look like a human, and that's what he's doing right now. And Randapan, if you remember back some freaking episode 4 or something, Randapan, he's looking for Randapan because Randapan is a furbolg, and he's like, oh my god, this is one of my people. I need to go like find him. But he is an ancient race as well from the original 10. So Broadstone, just from players thinking that Broadstone is not a human. Broadstone was just one of the commanders of the army. He's a very important role, sure. But the player's curiosity towards him being a human and maybe not being a human, oh my god, he's not, and me having to explain why he's not a human and diving into that accidental lore from their curiosity and being like, he's an ancient race furbolg that is working with an ancient race mole person now. And it's all expanding and fitting into the world of the pre-existing lore and story interweaving structure. It's amazing. It's beautiful. I love it. So that's where they're at right now. They have planned out this whole thing. What their plan is right now is they are not going to go through the water. They are not going to go through the water. I was really wanting them to go through the water because that dire salamander fight was going to be so cool. But they're not going to go through the water. They're not going to go through the trapped location. This location had a bunch of these salamander creatures, and this one was the main one. And if they fought this dire salamanders here, they were going to fight right here, and they'd get a free access into here because there are no defenses here whatsoever. 0 defenses here whatsoever. And then over here is an easy access point into the base through these like tree branches that are really close to the wall. You can easily get in the wall, but this is a trap. This is a trap. The information they were given by their contact is the opposite of that. The contact, which is a double agent bad guy, the contact that they were given were told, this is safe, but don't enter in here. This is a trap. And they're told, this is the way to enter. You should enter into here and you can get in their barracks and you're all good to go. The contact is a double agent. It's bad, bad, bad person. But the contact has been captured. His name's Marcus Lahir. He's been kidnapped. Oh no, he hasn't been kidnapped. He's just gone back to Chagra and he's working for them. So players didn't know that though, and they met up with Knackle, and Knackle's like, I didn't really trust that Marcus guy. It doesn't really make sense. There's definitely creatures in this water. There's these salamanders. So why would he tell you there's no creatures? So I'm just throwing some shade and doubt and making them have to think and try and piece this thing together. So what their strategy is and where we're picking up is they're going to try and get the stagecoaches. There are stagecoaches that come in to refill the supplies of the camp, and they're going to try and jump a stagecoach. And that's where we're picking up next session, is to see how that goes with some stagecoaches and breaking into stagecoaches and then entering into the base itself. And I can't wait to see how that goes because they're going to be winging it alongside me. So I'm super excited to see how that goes. I'll update you guys on it next week. So until then, stay creative, think outside the box. Peace.